Hello, Art12. Welcome to your drawing the noses demonstration, or nose. I'm going to draw multiple, so mine's plural. So first of all, we want to line up the nose with the eyes. And so I look for, like in this image, I have an actual outline I can draw over here. And I'm just going to draw the underside and I'm going to draw the curve. The rest is value mapping and value. For this one, which I'll draw hers as well because it's more of a front view of the nose, I don't really have a lot of hard edges to draw. Like, I'm not going to draw the outline. I'm going to give myself an outline of like where the value fades. I'm just really going to draw the bottom part and I'm going to value map the rest. Now over here I'd probably draw the shape of that cast shadow. For like this type of nose, I would super lightly, because it's slightly darker along the edge, so I give myself that contour outline, and I would draw the bottom. I would draw like the oval opening, and I would value map all of the values, including that highlight. Not pressing very hard, super gently. For like this kind of a nose, I actually do have a line to kind of follow on this side, the bottom, and then it's mostly value mapping. I'm like flip up the grid on this one. On this one, I would just draw the bottom part and I'd probably value map the bottom. Well, and I'd give myself like a curvature to show myself like where that medium value is. But there's not a lot of there's not a lot to draw for the noses because it's all shadings. There's way more shading than there is drawing. Okay, so I'm going to make sure, looking at how his nose lines up with his eye, what does it line up with? It lines up with like the edge of the center of the eye, which is pretty much where that mark was. Okay, double checking myself. All right, on the other side, where does the nostrils line up with? His tear duct. So that actually needs to come over just a little bit from what I had. I'm gonna erase the angle and that line that I had. So my next step then is to draw a mark for the center of the nose. So his center of the nose is an E6, okay. It is, let me do my halfway marks. Okay, the tip of it's between halfway and half of halfway, and it is over from center, so like here. Okay, while I'm here, I'm going to give myself a little guideline of where it curves in, like where his nostril is, and then where there's like over here on this side, it looks like just a slit or a line for like his nostril. So even like, you know that your nostrils are holes, they're openings in your body, but if you can't see the hole, don't draw it. So for here, hers literally looks like a little slit and a shadow. I would just draw the little line for the slit. On this side, Charlotte has just like a little bit darker of a line on the side to show that there is an opening, but on this side, ooh, that's actually hard to see. Oh, I can see it. She has some reflected light right here on the bottom, so it looks like a teardrop, that nostril for hers. For Danny, it looks like a little teardrop. It's slightly wider here, it comes to a point, and then this is more like a curved teardrop. So I would really look at the shape of the openings. Daniel just has a slit. He doesn't actually have the nostril showing, so I'm just going to give myself a guideline, a little bit above halfway. And then it kind of comes over. Okay, so for this nose, I'm going to start in the middle, and it's kind of squared off a little bit. Comes up. And then the curve ends just slightly above the line. I need to put in that little bit of a darker value on the edge, but don't shade anything really. Okay, so over here, comes down and meets it. While I'm looking super closely, I'm noticing that he has a core shadow. It's light, but it's a darker part that kind of runs to here, and then it goes, this is the shadow at the bottom of the nose here. There's darker value above the nostril. All right, so coming over to this nostril, he has like a smile line or a crease or a fold of skin that happens here. So I'm just going to value map that a little bit while I'm in that location. And then he has skin underneath his nose. So actually let me get the viewfinder for that. How far down does that shadow go? About half of halfway. Okay, so not very low. It's like the stretching of the skin being pulled. So that's not a whole lot. I mean, I could flip up my grid. I'm gonna have like a little bit of a highlight like along the nostril. So I'm just gonna give myself a slight outline. Now that I flip up the grid, I can kind of see there's like a slight curvature of value. It's darker at the bottom, which we'll like notice when we shade all this stuff. So it's a little squared off over here though. A little more square. Okay, that's it for that kind of nose. Okay, next nose, if you're looking more straight on, or you can see like more of like the openings or the bottoms of it. Just remember, noses are mostly value. So I did her other eye. Okay, so I'm looking at this side of the nostril. What does it line up with? Like the curve of the white of the eyeball, so here. So I need to kind of bring that down a little bit lower, or a little bit wider. Okay, this one, same. Okay, that mark is correct. Okay, now I'm gonna erase that line that I have, erase that guideline. Put something underneath my hand, there we go. You put something underneath your hand. Okay, center of her nose. It comes down like half of halfway. And it's to the right of center of the box. Look how it curves before it hits the grid. I feel like that needs to scoot over a little bit. That's where it's curving. So it curves up and down. Let me flip up the grid and see if I can see more. Okay, yeah. All right, so below the nostril opening, I see a little bit of the edge of nostril. And then there's a little slit of the nose in there. So you can see very little below that opening. And then there's darker value underneath. Okay, so this one I can see a little bit more of the opening. She really has any detail in her nose. Well, this is a good example then. She really has any detail happening here. Okay, so I can see the curvature. How high does that curvature go? Okay, yeah, so I can see the curvature of her nostril come up into that box. I'm going to value map her. Let's see how high this nostril comes over here. Yeah, a little bit higher. I'm going to value map her cast shadow. And so it kind of comes, let me see how far. Sorry, how far does that come up? About halfway. Halfway. Because it helps create the form of her nostril. So, and it comes down, comes up and over. I'm going to use my viewfinder to see how far that cast shadow comes into the box. Halfway. So then I'm looking at her nose. She does have like the slightly darker sides and then a lighter top, obviously. And then we'll kind of give ourselves the outline of the highlight just a little bit to say like, hey, kind of avoid this, or this is where you're going to erase, etc. Okay, so the curvature usually lines up with the eyebrows in some way. Okay, so for her over here, I'm just going to lift up the bird so I can kind of see. Actually, it curves a little bit more. Oh yeah, it totally curves. Okay, but I can kind of see like the side of it. Okay, so then the bottom of her nose is slightly darker, so I'm going to line up that a little. And then where does that highlight come? Right on the line, of course. Let me delete that out. So she has like, which will end up erasing this out. So she has the highlight. So it's not that you're drawing like, oh, an outline. This is just a guideline for value. So I know like when I add my value in, I'm adding it in that curved kind of motion. Over here, I'm looking like, oh, it's a little bit more curved. And then we'll fade in a little. So actually I could, well, in there, I could erase out. All right, so there is a front view nose. The biggest thing I think is the mistake that a lot of people make is the nostrils. Like, you know they're an opening, but it looks just like a little slit and it's at a little angle. For hers, they're an actual shape. And so I get the angle of it and then just like draw the curvature of the opening. So just know like they're not round. They're usually not oval unless you're like shooting from below and you can see up into your nose. They're usually pretty small. All right. The next one will be closed mouth with lips, and then after that would be open mouth with tongue and or teeth. So there'll be 2 mouth demonstrations as well. I'll see you in the next video.